Here's one. I think I shared this with Art last night on his Friday night touch-up, and it's part of the wave. It's part of the agenda. I don't know how many people of this group are going to get elected, but it's interesting to note that there's a wave coming. And it's not just a black female wave. There's also another segment of people that are actually riding the coattails of the Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, BLM wave, okay? This is over 500 LGBTQ candidates to appear on November ballots, shattering records. A lesbian Air Force veteran in Texas, transgender advocate in Delaware, and a gay attorney in New York are among those running for office. More lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer candidates will appear on ballots across the country this November than ever before. According to a new report from the LGBTQ Victory Fund, a group that trains, supports, and advocates for queer candidates, these candidates are also more racially diverse than in past election cycles, according to the findings. A historic number of openly LGBTQ people are running for office this year, and we have the opportunity to elect an unprecedented number on Election Day. Former Houston Mayor Anise Parker, president and CEO of the LGBTQ Victory Fund. This is interesting. She's a former Houston mayor. Said in a statement, while LGBTQ candidates are significantly more diverse than candidates overall, we must continue to break down the barriers LGBTQ people of color, women, and trans people face when considering a run for office. Notice they didn't say anything about black men. Our government must reflect the diversity of America. Another record year, at least 1,006 openly LGBTQ ran or are still running for office this election cycle, up from 716 in 2018 midterms. According to Victory's Out on the Trail report, of these candidates, 574 will appear on the general election ballot in November, up from 432 in 2018, representing a 33% increase. There are about 8 non-incumbent LGBTQ candidates running for the House of Representatives. If they all win, they would more than double the LGBTQ representation in Congress's lower chamber from 7 to 15. There are currently 2 LGBTQ U.S. senators, Tammy Baldwin, Democrat Wisconsin, and Kristen Sinema, Democrat Arizona, though neither is up for re-election this year. Some of these congressional hopefuls are looking to unseat incumbent conservatives. Tracy Metrano, a lawyer and a cybersecurity expert, is one of them. She's gunning for incumbent Republican Tom Reed's job in the New York 23rd Congressional District. The district can do better than what it had in representation in Congress for the past 10 years, Metrano told local NBC affiliate WTEM TV on Saturday. Affordable health care, good education, infrastructure, the internet. Let's get jobs back, but the only way you're going to do that is if you lay the foundation of health and education and infrastructure. Former U.S. Air Force Captain Gina Ortiz Jones is looking to beat Republican nominee Tom Gonzalez, a Navy veteran, and flip Texas 23rd Congressional District for Democrats. If she wins, Jones will be both the first Filipino-American woman to serve in Congress and the first openly gay representative from Texas. Filipino-American, interesting. I really felt called to protect the opportunities that allow me to grow up healthy and get an education and serve our country, Jones told NBC News. That made my story, my service possible. And that's why I'm so committed to fighting for working families in this district. John Hodley is currently in his 3rd term as Michigan State Representative. He's taken on Representative Fred Upton, who opposed non-discrimination protections for LGBTQ people and voted to ban same-sex marriage. Upton has represented the historically conservative district since 1986. For his entire political career, Fred Upton has worked to deny basic rights and protections to LGBTQ people, so it will be poetic justice when he's defeated by an openly gay challenger next November, said Parker of the race. Few 2020 congressional races are more important than this one. A swing seat in a swing state with a stark choice for voters. John aims to uplift all constituents and put real people at the center of the decision making, while Fred Upton continues to play cynical politics with people's lives and well being. If elected, Hodley will be the first openly LGBTQ member of Congress from Michigan. Increasingly racial and ethnic diversity. A notable trend this year is a substantial increase in the number of LGBTQ candidates of color. Nearly a third of the LGBTQ candidates who ran this year are people of color, compared to 10% of all candidates. LGBTQ and non-LGBTQ who ran in 2018, the report states. Two favorites to win the congressional races are Democrats Richie Torres and Mondaire Jones, who are running for New York's 15th and 17th congressional districts, respectively. Both Torres and Jones will be the first black gay men elected to Congress if they were to prevail. And I'll put the link in the description. I'm not going to read the whole thing. They're telling you about tons and tons of our folks that are alphabet people that are actually vying for power, which is something that was coming, which is something that BLM was a stalking horse for it. I do believe BLM is going to be going back to just being a hashtag. But a lot of this stuff, a lot of this agenda was not predicated, but actually openly pushed for by BLM and financed behind the scenes. So basically, this wave is coming. And to me, it doesn't matter who the president is. Will Joe Biden make it easier for this to happen? Possibly. But Trump and whoever's in it really can't do very much about it. They're well organized, they're well financed, and they're winning the hearts and minds of people. So it's something that's probably floating underneath people's radar because you think just because you see an openly gay candidate, that's just one or maybe two. But basically, when you add them all up and you see all of them, you all of them together on people's ballots, then you start to thinking that this may be a wave. This might be a wave of the future. Because like in none of these did they mention heterosexual black men or heterosexual men, period. So you're not just left out of what BLM is doing, but also now you got to run against white men, black women, and LGBTQ. At the very end, you're still at the bottom. Nobody's advocating for you or are going to advocate for you. You're going to have to advocate for yourself because at the end of the day, it's SYSBM or die. SYSBM or die out because they're telling you to your face that they're not coming for you. And it's saying in this article, they're there not to fight for everyone's rights. They're there to fight for their rights and for their constituency. And so are black women for the most part. They're there to fight for their rights and their constituency. If they can throw crumbs to you after they're finished getting what they need, they will. And probably black men have spent far too long collecting crumbs, even when we fight for it, even when black men like Ice Cube and others fight for black people. The lion's share goes to somebody else, and black men who fought for it actually get the crumbs. At some point, this will get tired. Hopefully, it already is, which it seems to be an awakening for black men. Take themselves and their policies seriously and take their outcomes and their needs and their interests seriously and do it over anybody else. Because trust and believe, nobody else is thinking about your needs over theirs or being inclusive in your needs. Because if that was the case, the crime bill would have never got passed and all these brothers would have never gone to jail. And for black women that say they care about their men and they bring the babies to prison and to jail to visit the guy behind bars and put money on his books. I'll just say this and I'll offer this. It's better to raise boys that never have to go through the experience and worry about putting money on his books and waiting 7 to 10 years for him to come out, or changing the policies where he never has to go in the first place. Because trust and believe, you don't see white women allowing their white men to go to prisons for selling or even taking or using those opioids. You got 100,000, almost 100,000 people die of opioids every year. You don't see them locking up white men willy-nilly or wholesale because they use or because they possess it, or even if they sell it. White women would not allow it. But black women allow their men to go to prison in numbers that are actually astronomical. In fact, I'll shout out to Tone Talks. He pointed out something to me that I didn't realize. I didn't even know. I had to look it up for myself. There are 758,000 black males or black men in prison or jail. I do believe it's prison in the United States, not worldwide, in the United States. And that's down from 928,000 in the United States. You know what the worldwide prison population for 4 billion women on the planet is? Take a guess. 714,000. So you have 18 million black males in the United States. And of those 18 million black males, you have a higher rate, a higher number, not just rate, higher number of them in prison versus 4 billion females on the planet. You have more American black males in prison than any other group on the planet. Any other group on the planet in the home of the land of the free and the home of the brave. And with black women that protect and care for you. That's just one aspect. And when we start doing the Black Male Initiative, we're going to get into that. Because at some point, black men are going to have to get sick and tired. I don't think they are yet. But at some point, they're going to have to get sick and tired of being sick and tired. Because the insanity that is keeps getting wreaked upon us with no relief. And then other people like the LGBTQ and black women step over your bones to actually get power. And nobody says anything. And most of all, the people that it's done to every day don't say anything, because at the end of the day, most of us think that we deserve it. And that's the problem, because we have been brainwashed to thinking that we freaking deserve this kind of treatment, punishment, and lack of access to what we need. But as Dr. Ron O'Neill says, new day's coming. And I think black men are sick and tired of being sick and tired. This is our Rosa Parks moment. 2020, we're going to sit at the front of the bus and we ain't going to get up and move. Take us to jail. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. SYSBM and BMI. Black male independence, and because we have to save ourselves, black men. We all we got. With that, I'm going to jump off of here. This is BGS out, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.